Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Carlos Garcia, and joining me is Nick Boscia. We're so excited to have you join us live for our credit education series. Today is part one of three webinar sessions that Nick and I are going to host for you. And this came about really just through a casual conversation that Nick and I had because we both have a passion for navigating credit, and Nick has a specific skill set in knowing how to leverage credit cards specifically to maximize rewards. So today we're going to walk you through several different ways that you can leverage how to use credit in the smart way so you can get rewarded the right way. But the next two sessions, we're going to talk more about credit education. And since this is directed towards business advisors, those who are in a position that can provide guidance and support the clients around making better financial decisions, we feel like credit is a big part of that conversation that I think we should be having more often, especially when it comes to debt management, or we're thinking about helping our clients plan through expansion or a major financial purchase, or if they have to manage debt effectively and learn how to pay down debt so that they get themselves out of debt. And that's a big major goal. And then more importantly, also planning for the unexpected. So we'll talk about these four major overarching themes. But for today, we'll talk a little bit about debt management and how to leverage credit cards so that you can get rewarded accordingly. And so today should be very fun. And joining me is Nick Boscia. Nick, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Carlos. I've been looking forward to this. Session one, obviously, it's a three-part series, but today is going to be focused on, I like to call credit card hacks. And the reason I love talking about this, if you've seen any of my posts, it's like one of my favorite things to do, just like on a personal level, because I love traveling and I love helping people. But I really want to show other people how they could do what I do. It's not as complex and not as scary as you think. There's a lot of power behind your credit cards if you use them smart. So I'm 100% positive that everyone here, if you have a credit card, I'll teach you something that's going to help you maximize your reward, maybe do the trip of your dreams or something like that. And I'm excited to get into it. To do a quick introduction about me, if you don't know me, my name is Nick Boscia. I'm also known as the Balanced CPA. I'm the managing partner of my accounting firm, Boscia and Boscia. So here I'm advising my tax clients, helping them, business owners, grow their businesses, sometimes from no business at all to growing their business. And credit is a big part of the discussion. A lot of our clients sometimes don't have any credit cards at all, and they're doing everything on their debit card, which we'll get into. And this is just a little background about me that I typically go over, but since today is more about credit cards and less about my accounting firm, I'm going to skip most of it. And I'm just going to jump down to the last point because people always ask me how many credit cards I have, and it does change over time. So I had to count my cards before today, and I have 12 personal cards and 5 business cards, which people think is crazy, but I will explain how I've gotten to that point and how I maximize all of them, and I make all my fees, my credit cards work for me, and not the reverse. And again, I love traveling, so my goal is to travel to 100 countries. And travel could get expensive, but if you do it right, you could actually get travel either free or significantly discounted. And we're going to get into that and a lot more during this session today. So I'm going to kick it over to Carlos.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. So, for those of you I don't know, hi, I'm Carlos Garcia. So, I'm the co-founder of Reframe. I'm a sales coach, speaker, and founder also of Exceed Sales, a sales coaching company. My passion is helping accounting, bookkeeping, tax for professionals improve pricing, sales, and client experience through firm growth. And I come from 15 years of banking experience, and I actually was the leader of multiple credit roles inside a big financial institution where I actually help lead the design and rollout of credit card programs and products. And so I got to be able to be behind the scenes, not only in just how to help these products work, but I also was in a role where I supported and trained and helped the bankers learn how to have better conversations with their clients to help navigate how to maximize rewards and how to manage debt and credit the right way. So hopefully I'll bring some insight from my experience in the banking background, as well as, learning from Nick's expertise in some, how to take advantage of really good credit offers and how to use it responsibly too. Because I think oftentimes we could feel like having too many credit cards based on however you grew up in your life could be dangerous as well. And so we want to also give you some cautionary recommendations of like how to do it the smart way and not put yourself in a position of risk of getting yourself into crazy debt or paying all these crazy fees that you shouldn't be paying. So, Nick, did we want to launch a poll for everybody
Yep.
to kick this off with?
Yeah, so we'll launch the first polling. Carlos, you'll launch this first polling question. Just want to kind of gauge everyone who's here. Um, how do you how do you use business credit cards? Do you avoid them entirely? One card and you pay it monthly, multiple cards, no real strategy, or multiple cards and you're a full optimizer. So
Okay.
thanks for everyone for answering. Just gives me an idea.
So
Are
let
you
me share the
gonna
results with the
share it?
folks so everybody can see it, where everybody's at more or less.
Yeah. So a lot of people, probably about 50% of the group has one card. Some people don't have any cards, which is fine. And today, hopefully, I'll convince you why you might want to consider a card. And if you have one card, I might convince you why you might want to have multiple cards. And we'll get into all of that today. And I'm excited. So I'm going to debunk just some of the myths around credit cards. Some people see credit cards as just debt and financial risk, which is not true. You could maximize your credit cards as long as you pay your credit cards off in full every month. You charge 5,000 on your card, you pay that 5,000 off by the end of the month by your bill date. You're not paying any interest and there's no risk. It actually is just giving you a longer float to pay off your card instead of using a debit card, which is myth number two. Debit cards are safer. They're actually not as safe. So I don't know if anyone who's ever traveled and maybe use your debit card when you're traveling and if you ever have fraud on your debit card, it's a lot harder to get that money back. It's a big pain to reach out to your bank and say, "Hey, this $100 charge wasn't me." It's a nightmare. But on your credit card, if that happens, it's very easy to solve to get that rectified and get the money refunded. Just like one of the reasons why I actually think credit cards are safer than debit cards because debit cards has access to your actual bank. Um, Myth three, one card is enough. I'm sure a lot of people here are probably business owners, and if not, still, if you own a business, it definitely makes sense to have a business credit card and a personal credit card. Obviously, I have multiple business cards and multiple personal cards. And even if you don't own a business, I think it's valuable to have multiple cards because now you don't have to have all of your revolving charges on one card. God forbid you lose that card, you have a new card number, you don't really have a backup. So I think it's really valuable to have at least two cards. And again, just the reality is if you strategize, you could really make your credit cards work for you. And they're really powerful. And there's a lot of benefits that we're going to get into.
Hey, Nick, can I throw something out here?
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons, like, if it wasn't even just for the rewards part of it, like, one of the benefits of having a credit card, in my opinion, is separating the access to your bank funds on a debit card versus a credit card. So, like, obviously, whenever you pay for anything, your information is at risk of being put out there. So, the good news of having a credit card, like, let's say you want to rent a car, what do they typically ask for is for a deposit, like a credit card, right? So you can use it for that. If you're going to the gas station and you're paying for gas, like there's so many places where you're tapping that card in or using the Apple Pay or and that could be secure, but sometimes you're entering this data inside of the internet and all that stuff. And so I think one of the benefits and a lot of people might not find is having the credit card as like a separate way to to not expose your banking information. Because although banks and credit card companies do have insurance in case you experience fraud. How many of you type in the chat have ever experienced credit card fraud in the past? Or just bank fraud, right? Like how frustrating is it? How much time does it take and energy out of your day and maybe even your clients, right? And then you got to do the bookkeeping and the reconciliation for it all, right? Because now there's a new account and you got to do the chart of accounts for it and all that good stuff, right? So many of us at one point of our lives, and whoever hasn't must be a unicorn, but many of us at one point of our lives have experienced some sort of fraudulent that because it's just so present, right? And I think that's one of the major benefits. Just have a credit card to separate yourself from the exposure of having a debit card like that's connected directly to your bank account, which is your direct money.
Yeah, no, I love that. Great ad. And I love Alicia wrote in the chat that she never had fraud. I had it. Actually, when I was traveling at an accounting conference recently, one of my employees' cards charged like $2,000 on it, and it automatically said, "Is this fraud?" And it knew somehow it wasn't him. Canceled the card. No, it wasn't at the $2,000, and there was no hassle except getting the new card. But yeah, let's keep going. So getting into some of the card benefits, these are like the major perks of a credit card. So a lot of cards are cashback cards. I'd be curious in the chat whose cards are primarily cashback cards. If you like cashback, just write cashback in the chat because I'm kind of curious. Then there's also points and miles. Typically, cards are cashback or points and miles. And I'm obviously a big traveler, so I always opt for the points and miles. Cashback is a lot simpler. If you're like, you know what, by the end of this webinar, if you're like, hey, Nick, everything you talk about is too confusing. I don't want to deal with all that. Cashback's the way to go. There's nothing wrong with cashback. It's just you charge something, you might get 5% cash back. You could get a check at the end of the year, and that's great. Points it's a little bit more complicated, transferring points to other airlines or hotels, but sometimes those deals that we'll get into could actually increase the value of that currency. Um, Another big thing is sign up bonuses. I posted about it the other day on Instagram that my wife actually just got the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and the sign up bonus, if she hits a spend, is 150,000 points. That's the equivalent easily of 1,500. She could cash that out and get $1,500, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use that and get a flight that might be worth 5,000, and I'm going to get into that later. And then just specialized perks. One of my favorite things about having some of the high annual fee cards is every time I travel, like I will be going to Bridging the Gap on Monday. And when I get to the airport, I like getting there early. I will go into the United Club and I eat for free, drink for free. And that's just another perk of the card. And that's just one of many specialized perks. Carlos, any perks that you like on your cards that I didn't touch?
Well, yeah, I think, for many of us who probably are in the world of like going to conferences, some of us here could be sponsors or speakers or work for companies that require you to travel. It's so much more convenient when you go into a lounge where you can chill. You got Wi-Fi that's more secure, where you can have coffee, you can have some food or snacks, or maybe an adult beverage, whatever your choice of lifestyle is. It's just like if you really think about it, every time you travel to the airport and you go to one of those like Hudson News or whatever little shops, you're in the spending like 10, $15. So just that alone, it's like you add that up, it's already worth it. I also love the sign up bonuses. I know that we'll answer this later. Like some people don't like changing credit cards every year or whatever. And like, so there's like a way that you could strategically do it where you're not affecting your credit. And then you're also not like a serial credit card signer upper or whatever, right? But I have a mix of most, Nick. I have a specific card that's, the Robinhood investment account. So I got there, they have a credit card that's 3% flat and it's like a $50 annual fee. And since I'm just such a miscellaneous spender, I just rather put that all on the one card and then put that 3% into my investment account because I like investing. So that's like a hobby of mine. So it's all based on preference, right? Like some people want one thing versus another, and there's a nice combination you can leverage to get the most out of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why I wanted to like kind of touch on all the things that are out there. Everyone's gonna have different things. So some of the stuff is gonna get you excited. Some people might not care about the lounges at all, but I'm gonna kind of cover everything throughout this session that I love actually. Um, and then so we also wanted to touch on, which Carlos mentioned in the beginning, like the business impact. Just using a credit card obviously helps with cash flow. So instead of buying things on your debit card, so whether it's in your business or you're advising your clients, using a debit card, that money's instantly getting debited out of their account that day versus using a credit card. Now it gives them an extra 30, 45 days of working capital, which is super helpful. It helps build your business credit and just leveraging like vendor payments. I know, Carlos, this is kind of an area that you specialize in.
Yeah, I think if you are in a position where you're providing business advice to your clients, sometimes a credit card could be a strategic way to leverage credit to help finance certain things that might be required short term. So like if you are advising a client that has like a lot of employees, one of the benefits of having a business credit card where you can have employees under that card, one, find one that maybe helps you with the accounting. So it's if you're an accountant, it makes it easy for you to be able to reconcile that for them. But another one, what is there one that has specific incentives for let's say they're in the transportation business and the employees, have 18 wheelers and they're driving across the country, delivering, logistics or whatever, right? Transporting goods. And that you find a specific car that pays 3% on gas and anything travel related. Well, yeah, that would be a great one for you to take advantage of. There are other things that you can also leverage. There are tools inside some of these business cards that helps you do better AP and AR management, mostly when it comes to like paying vendors on a monthly or quarterly basis. And then there are a few offers that will give you some 0% runway where you can borrow some stuff fairly short term, whether it's 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, rather than you taking out a business loan. Let's say you need to borrow to invest in something that you know that you can pay back within 6 months, 9 months. Why not borrow it at 0%, pay no interest on it, and then pay it back knowing that that in your operating cycle you're gonna collect that money back and more, because if you take a 12-month loan you could be paying 12%, 15% plus in the business side. So there are strategic ways you can use credit cards for short-term capital needs. The one thing you shouldn't ever use it for is you're never going to buy equipment or a vehicle with a business credit card. That's probably the worst thing you could ever do. So just understand what the design of a business credit card is meant to do. And we want to advise our clients to also be smart and strategic in how to use that the right way.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the most important points because some people right here are just excited about like maybe credit card rewards and points and all that, but I think that's the most important point is like you have to be strategic as you do this, paying off your card in full, not paying the crazy 25, 30% interest rates is that's the first starting point. So like I wouldn't recommend anyone do any of the strategies I'm going to get into later if you're not paying your credit card off in full because then you would be losing money. So we're going to
Okay.
launch the second poll.
Okay. And this is asking us what matters most when choosing a credit card. What are some of those answers, Nick?
Yeah, so longer float, payment terms, cash back or point rewards, travel perks and lounge access, and insurance and purchase protections.
We're seeing the numbers start to concentrate in one particular area. We'll share them with you in just a second. Make sure you vote. We have 34 out of 35 out of 47. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Get your vote in. All right, we're gonna go ahead and end the poll. Yeah, they're still coming in last minute. See, a few people are distracted. Get off your Instagram. Stop scrolling. Vote. Okay, here we go. Cool. So let's see the results.
Yeah, so the majority are here because they are most excited about cash back or point rewards. Then I would say next is longer float payment terms. And I'm actually surprised no one on insurance and purchase protections. Not something that we really like discussed a lot, but that is a great perk. Is a lot of times when you buy something on a card, it actually extends the warranty on things. So always keep that in mind. I don't use that typically, but it's just there if you're using the credit card and it's a free perk.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of the perks that I think we often don't talk about, Nick, is like all the other little benefits that come like in travel insurance and the warranty extension. And if you're renting a car, like the insurance inside of the rental is sometimes included in a few of these bigger cards. And like this saves you money long term, so you don't have to pay for the airlines insurance or the company's insurance. Some of you, if you've ever rented a car, they're going to try to upsell all these things to you right before you rent the car, where you expected it was going to be 30 bucks a day and ended up coming out net twice as much because they were trying to like add all these extra features on there. And sometimes if you book it with that credit card, it might have those benefits included. So take a moment if you do sign up to these nice credit cards with perks to read the little benefits guide that comes with the credit card in the mail. It's very useful.
And I think that's one of the advantages of not having as many cards as me, because if you have one card or two cards, it's pretty easy to, get, especially now with AI, you could get your credit card benefit statement and like drop in an AI and be like, hey, what insurance does this give me? And you go look all that stuff up online and it's pretty cool. So highly recommend doing that for the card you already have. And then it just makes you realize like the power of the card. So some of these things we already touched on, just having responsible credit habits. I feel like this is the most important thing I always want to start with before I go into all the awesome travel rewards and bonuses and things. But you always want to pay your card in full, keeping your utilization under 30%. So if your credit limit is 10,000, keep your balance under the under 3,000. All of these are just to help your credit. So if you miss a payment, that's going to kill your credit score. Having a really high utilization doesn't it hurt your credit score. And then just tracking your spending, especially for someone like me with 17 cards. I use a consolidator, like a Credit Karma. There's a bunch of apps out there. So now I can see all my spending in one place. If a transaction that I don't recognize, I could identify it and say, was this fraud? Was it a mistake? Or I just forgot that I bought an item or something like that. So tracking your spending is really important. And then number four isn't like a rule, but something that I would recommend to anyone who's listening is like I open up about one card per year. And people always ask, well, doesn't that hurt your credit to open up cards? It right when you open up a card, your credit score might go down like 5 points. But then once you make those payments in full, your credit will actually bounce back. So now, like having a lot of cards, if I look at my credit report, I'm every month I'm getting like 15 on-time payments. So actually, my credit keeps going up. But when you make that first application, it will hit your credit. But I recommend doing that because then you could take advantage of the bonuses and all the different card perks.
So I'm going to throw a little behind the scenes because I used to be an underwriter in the bank and I know exactly what goes into what hurts or helps your credit. Okay. So I'm going to share a little bit more context on this. So I like to call it the rule of three. Okay. So remember the rule of three and the number three is in each rule. Okay. So rule number one is what Nick has here on the slide is keep your utilization under 30% if you have revolving credit. Rule number three, you want to have an average of 3 years or more in credit experience so that you're considered someone who has solid credit experience and you're not like overly using credit. Rule number three is don't do more than three credit inquiries per year. Okay, you could do more, but like if you don't want to negatively impact your credit. And rule number four is you should have at the very least three or more installment loans and three or more revolving credit cards in your credit. If you follow those four rules, you will likely have a 700 plus credit score and you will be seen in the eyes of an underwriter as an experienced buyer, as someone with experienced credit. So like if you want to apply for a car loan or a business loan or a pro or like a home loan or anything that's more advanced than just a credit card, those are the rules you want to follow. The one only challenge or caveat I would just say to folks around applying for try to get out a new credit card every year, I would make that rule your rule. Like that's Nick's rule. It doesn't mean it's everybody's rule. So Nick, I will respectfully disagree with that philosophy. In my mind, I'll probably open a credit card every 2 years if there's a really good deal. And I'll tell you why. Because me, the credit nerd that I am, I'm protecting my average years of credit. So every time I open a new credit card, my average years of credit gets factored into that, right? So like let's say I have three credit cards and one of them is 10 years and another one is 1 year. What's my average credit history? 5 years, right? 1 and 10, or a little bit over 5 years. So every time I open a new credit card at 0 years of experience, my average years of experience goes down, and that could negatively impact my FICO. So just as a fair warning to y'all, like figure out what your rule would be on tip number four. If you have a lot of experience, more than 20 years of credit experience, it won't hurt you. But if you're newer to credit, I would just try not to get a new credit card every year because if you're trying to build credit experience, that will take down your average. Does that make sense, Nick? And for everybody
Yeah.
else?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a great point. That's why I like to put that in there. Like building the deck, I'm thinking like if people who are interested in like credit card hacks, it's like that's a good hack because getting this, I'm really thinking from the sign up bonus. The sign up bonus is gonna, and I 100% agree with Carlos. I wouldn't say that's a rule. That's just like my rule. So depending on your
It's
credit, like if
yeah,
my
but
credit's high,
yeah,
yeah.
some fair guidance is like every 1 to 3 years you can apply for a new card, take advantage of a bonus, and it won't hurt you. But if you go like if you have very early credit experience, that could hurt you. So I would just say if you have a lot of credit experience, like 5 years plus, you could follow that. But if you're new to credit, that could hurt your average experience, which in the eyes of a lender, it might hurt your chances of getting approved for bigger credit stuff in the future. So that's just my fair warning as a former underwriter.
Yeah, I like that. So now to the third poll. How often do you reconcile your credit card spend? So do you reconcile it weekly, monthly, quarterly, or never?
So Nick, I know the word reconcile is an accounting word, but is this meant more like how often do you look at your statements and take a look at where your spending is? Like, what do you mean by the question? Just to be
Yeah,
clear.
exactly. Just like making sure, like, do you look at your statement every month just to make sure everything that was charged to your car was actually you? Checking, are there any revolving subscriptions that you're like, wait, I don't even use Netflix anymore. I have a Hulu, Netflix, and you cancel it. So like those are the things I mean by reconcile, just reviewing your spend.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and share results. Give me just a second. We're just capturing some last second votes here.
I like most people monthly, which is great. I feel like monthly is a good amount of time. I do weekly because do have a lot of cards. So I try to check that more often just because there's when you have more cards, it's definitely a little bit more risk. There's a lot more to manage. So I have to be a little bit more on top of it. But the perks for me outweigh the little extra time I have to check my spend. Quarterly, anyone who says never, I would recommend just reviewing it, maybe even like once a year or biannually, because it shouldn't take too long. But sometimes that quick review could just save you money and just realize things you might have been paying for. They're like, wait, I don't use that. I've done this with friends, and they're like, oh my God, I canceled like 5 subscriptions of things that I signed up for years ago, and I don't even use it. So I definitely think it's very important to just do. It shouldn't take more than an hour if you do that.
Yeah. Can I share something real quick too around this monthly reconciliation? Uh, Type in the chat if you'd like. This is an optional thing, right? How many of you pay your credit cards off every single month? And then how many of you let it revolve, like, and just pay minimum monthly payments? Like, just out of curiosity, type I pay in full. Okay, great. There is this thing that's called a grace period, a credit card grace period window. Okay. And so it's important to also know that for those of you who want to make sure that you're not paying any actual interest, okay, that you could let some of your payments float inside of your credit card just as long as it's sticks inside of the 21-day grace period. Most credit cards who have the traditional revolving setup, which almost every credit card has it unless you have a charge card, they have a 21-day grace period. That means like if I spent $1,000 today on my credit card on something, and 21 days from now I don't pay that $1,000 off, it will start charging me the whatever the APR is on the terms, unless I have the 0% introductory rate or whatever. So just also be on the lookout for that. If you're finding that you're paying like a lot of interest and you want to know what the grace period looks like, that's the definition for online. So just another like little quick tip around knowing how to make sure you're not paying like crazy amounts of interest if you're carrying over balances from one month to the other. You're on mute, sir.
Thanks. So designing your card strategy. So this is going to be important if you have more than one card, but basically how I got started, originally I did have just one card, and now I think it was just United card because I flew United a lot and I like getting the free check bags. But then once I started realizing that it was okay to have more than one card, that's when I was actually able to design a card strategy. So number one is matching cards to spend. So for example, if you're someone who stays at Marriott's a lot, I would highly recommend having a Marriott card because if you have a Marriott card, you get 6 times points at Marriott. If you fly Delta a lot, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to have a United card Because if you fly Delta and you have a Delta card, you're going to maximize your points. If you spend most, if you're like, hey, Nick, I don't really travel that much, but I go out to eat a lot. Me and my friends go out all the time. I want to get a card that has at least 3 times points on dining. So like for example, I really like the Chase Sapphire Preferred. At the end, I'm going to share like my credit card cheat sheet and the cards that I have, but there's a lot of cards. It's not like that's the only card that gives you 3 times points on dining. But if you're going out to eat with your family and the dinner bill's $200, do you want to get 200 points or do you want to get 600 points for the exact same meal? So that's the strategy I'm talking about. Most people don't even think about it. They just use one card, and you might have multiple cards and just grab the first one in your wallet. I actually think about which card is the best for what I'm paying for. Um, and like travel cards with like 2 times, like if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, they have 3 times points on travel. I don't have that card. Um, but just thinking about things like that, mixing business and personal. So again, like if you do have a business, if you own your own business, it's best to always keep your business and personal separate. That's why I do have 5 business cards, because I want a variety of business cards. And I know it's a little excessive for most people, but that's how you could use the benefits. So like I have the United Club Card business. So now I could get into the United lounges, but that's my business card. But it doesn't matter. Even if I'm going on a personal trip, technically I'm still a United Club member thanks to that perk. So that's how I'm maximizing some of these perks, by mixing business and personal. And and Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you apply for the business card, I'm pretty sure it doesn't affect your credit the same way that a personal card does, right? Oh, you're muted too.
Yeah, on the debt on the business, it's my turn. The debt on the business credit doesn't show up on your personal credit. However, you are a personal guarantor, means that if you don't pay that debt, they have the right to go after you personally. Like they could put a collection on your personal credit. It just depends on what the terms are, but most business credit card companies require a personal guarantee. The debt will show up on your business credit report, which is usually in the SBFE. I think it's small business something it's through Equifax, Small Business Financial Exchange, which is ran by Equifax, and then also shows up on your Dun and Bradstreet, which are the two credit bureaus or the sources of credit that business lenders look at to evaluate your business credit worthiness.
Yeah, thanks for chiming in there. And I just saw a question in the chat, which is a good question. As long as you pay your statement balance, it's going back a little, you pay your statement balance in full, you pay no interest. So like if your statement balance for the month is 2,000, but your balance is now 5,000, your total balance, you only have to pay the statement balance by that close of the period. So as you have that set on auto pay, there won't be any interest. Um, and then, so again, back to this building your playbook. I would encourage anyone to start thinking, if this gets you excited, like it excites me, think about having different cards. Like it doesn't really make sense to have two United cards. If your only cards are, you have the United Club Business and the United Explorer, that's probably not the best strategy. So you want to think outside of the box. And like when I first started, I only had Chase cards. And then I was like, wait, why don't I ever look at Capital One or look at Amex? And I'm going to kind of talk about all of those different reasons. So now to the fun part for me, at least, is like the real life examples of how I maximize my cards. And these are some of them I have slides that I'll go more in detail on, but I'm just going to hit the highlights. But I'm going to go over how I went to Hawaii and booked the whole thing on points, and I saved about $1,600 versus using cash. And I'll actually just show you the numbers, just so you kind of see. Sometimes people are like, "Hey, you could say it, but they don't understand." So I'm going to show it to you. A point that I don't have a slide on that I think is really exciting, which is new. The second bullet is earning points on your mortgage or rent. So a newer card that actually released, I think back in February, so it's fairly new, this system, but it's the Built card. And the way the Built card works in a nutshell, without getting like too in the weeds, is if my mortgage hypothetically was 5,000, I could charge my mortgage on my card. It charges it and makes me pay it in full the next day. So you have no float on that mortgage. But you could earn 5,000 points but you actually have to use the card. So if I spend 5,000 on other purchases, I will get those 5,000 points on top of that. I like to just point that out because people think, oh, I'll just get that card and just spend the mortgage and get the points. They kind of stop that because they were losing money. But you could basically get the built card, earn points on your mortgage. It's a little complicated. So if anyone's actually interested at the end, I'll share my contact and then I could go into more detail. But I just wanted you to know it exists and I'm currently doing it and I get all my points on my mortgage and my HOA. So I just wanted to share that. Carlos, did you want to say anything on that point?
No, I think that's a huge one, right? It's like everybody, most people probably pay a mortgage or rent, and typically the auto debit has to happen via ACH. They don't really accept a card, but like the platform that Built has is it sort of simulates what it would look like to a ACH, and then you can maximize on getting points. It's probably one of the largest expenses out of all of our pockets. So I think that's a great call out.
Cool. Yeah. No, I love that one. It's new. I was like setting it up. It's like I had no one to like talk to. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try, and it's working. I'm earning the points. I'm like, this is awesome. So I want to tell people about it, and that's the whole reason why we're here today. Is like we love this, and I want to just share it so other people could do what the same things that we're doing. I'm gonna go over like my Marriott card. I absolutely love the Marriott Brilliant card, and I automatically get platinum status. I get free upgrades to suites and things like that. So hopefully, when I go to Bridging the Gap next week, it's a Marriott. I know I'll get 6 times points because I have the Marriott card, and hopefully, I get a free upgrade to the suite instead of the regular room. And then I'm going to wrap it up with talking about how I actually booked my honeymoon on points. I won't be able to go through every single step because that would be a 2 hour webinar just in itself. But those are some of the cool things that I've done. So just to give you an example on maximizing points for Hawaii flight. So if you look in the bottom right corner, you see in the white box, a round trip flight, this trip that I actually took to from Newark, New Jersey to Honolulu would have been $1,300. And for two people, me and Christine both went, it would have been obviously double that. So about, let's call it $2,600. However, if I just toggle while I was searching, and this is how other people could do it too, you go to book a trip, but you also have the points. All you do is look up the same exact search, and that's exactly what I did here. And I saw, and this in the black box, just to be clear, is a one-way segment. So a round trip was 50,000 miles. But 50,000 miles, if you assume, because sometimes people don't know how much a point is worth, it varies, but assume a point is about a cent. So now 50,000 miles is about $500. So I used 100,000 points because it was 50,000 each passenger, 100,000 points total, which is the equivalent of about $1,000. The taxes were $11, so let's call it $1,011. But the flight would have cost us 2,600. And that's how I come up with the math of the $1,600 in savings. And I like showing this first because I've done this so many times. To me, it's like second nature. It's like, obviously, if you do taxes, doing a tax return is like second nature. It's so easy. You don't even think about it being complex. That's how I feel when I do this. But I try to kind of break it down. The best place, if you don't know where to start, your next trip you go to book, when you look at the price, just toggle it and look at the miles. Do that calculation that your 100,000 miles is about $1,000. And if the cost is more than that, you know you're getting a savings. Hopefully that makes sense. Please write in the chat if you hear me and that makes sense. If it's confusing, let me know. But I'm trying to break it down because I know I've done this many, many times. But this was an easy thing for me to do because all that I did was just compare, apples to oranges or something. Carlos, have you ever done
I,
anything like this?
Yeah, I'm guessing, do you also sign up for like flight alerts to find when it's like a good time to buy so that you're also minimizing the cost on, the time to buy? Because sometimes they're like higher season, the price will jump up on flights.
Yeah, so like it depends. This flight, like I already knew when I wanted to go to Hawaii. Wanted to go over Thanksgiving to visit my friend. So I already knew the dates. So sometimes if you're more flexible, you can like do a flight alert and search like, hey, when are the cheapest times or when are the points deals to go to these locations if you're flexible. But if you're like, hey, well, this is the only time I could go. Here, I just kind of got lucky on this, but it's like I'm always checking back and forth.
Awesome.
And then I see Marlon wrote, is there a website used to track the points, the value? So I actually use an app called Award Wallet, and I can link in all my programs, American Airlines, United, Delta, Hilton, and you link it all, and it basically is kind of like a Credit Karma for points. So you could link if you have a lot of accounts, because for me, in the beginning, I would just track it myself. But then once you start having so many accounts, using an award wallet is a cool way to consolidate it so you don't forget about your points. As I promised, do have my credit card cheat sheet. So if you scan my QR code, it's just linked in there. Some of this stuff me and Carlos was actually looking over this. Some of this is outdated. I didn't update the screenshots in the PowerPoint, but it is updated in my actual QR code, and the link is to my cheat sheet. It's in like Google. It's in Google Docs and Dropbox. Just because there's too many to cover, I can't go over all of them in 1 hour. It's just not possible. But I'll share that then. So I just kind of took screenshots of it, just to give you examples. So I mentioned my Marriott card. I absolutely love the Marriott card. If you ever stay in Marriott's, I think this is the best card to have. Obviously, I'm biased. So like as Carlos mentioned in the beginning, like a lot of this is my personal opinion because I live it, but you might say, you know what, Nick, this doesn't work for me, and that's completely fine. But I just wanted to show you the power of the card because most people, when I tell them I love this card, like $650 annual fee, that's a lot of money. And it definitely is a lot of money, but I'll show you how my brain justifies why I want this card. So you get platinum elite status, which is close to the highest status. So when I go check into a hotel, I usually get upgraded to a suite. So if we're staying somewhere for say 5 nights and a suite upgrade is 300 a night, well, I just got $1,500 upgrade for free. So I value that. Some people are like, Nick, I don't really care about having a living room in my room. Like I like it, and that's just something that makes me happy. So that's why I like this card. But some of the easy things that it has is a $300 dining credit. So every month I get $25 off, and I have to make sure I use the card. That's a lot of the tricks with a lot of these high annual fee cards. They're hoping that you apply and you don't read the fine print, and they hope you don't use the free dining. So every month I always use this card. I have it in my Apple Wallet. We go to Rook and buy coffee or Starbucks, and we get our $25 credit every month. I'm never missing that credit. So that's $300 off my 650 for sure, because those are things I'm going to spend on anyway. And then you get an 85,000 point night. So I'm going to explain this a little bit because every year you get 85,000 free point night, and they're hoping that I don't use the night and it expires, and then I get it again next year and don't even realize. But that point, if you value it, if you value the points, it's about $595. And this is where I really love maximizing hotel points. So 85,000 points times it's less valuable. This is where it gets a little confusing. Instead of 1 cent per point, Marriott points are a little less valuable than airline point. So let's say it's 7 cents per point, a 0.7 cent a point, which is 595. So that alone just makes it pays for the card itself. So if you're following this math, you get the $300 off, you get the 595 value free night. I'm saving $245 by getting this card, not even including the upgrades. But what I ended up using this free night for was staying at the Ritz-Carlton in New York City, which is valued at $1,000 per night. So I actually ended up using the free night valued at $595 for a room that would have cost me $1,000. So these are just ways that you could get strategic and make your points on travel more valuable than the average person. And I have the last photo over here is just sometimes these cars have limited time offers. So, when the sign up bonus, I didn't actually get that sign up bonus, the 185,000. But sometimes you keep an eye, hey, there's a big bonus. It might be the highest ever, might be a good time to apply if there is on your mind. Any feedback on that, Carlos? Because I know some of the stuff you may or may not have known, because I know I'm crazy with the travel stuff.
Those are great. I like the call out that sometimes they'll like advertise you get this annual credit of something, but when you realize later on it's like it gets broken down into like a monthly thing, right? So like, they'll give you like a $200 of Uber Eats credits. And it's not like use it anytime. It's you get like a little monthly allowance of $15, and so you have to use that monthly allowance. So always reading the fine print. And I think the other question that stuck out to me was Catherine's question about like if you can you use it to load like gift cards and things like that. So some of these companies do have certain ways to know if you're using like the spend on like a little tricks for you to not really spend the money, which is like, oh well, I'll just put this on a cash gift card, and they'll catch on to those things. So just I would do some research. I would try to spend it on real things, and just make sure you look at the fine the fine we call it the fine points or whatever. Read the fine print. But I think if you do it on a like if you're loading it on one of your accounts, I don't think it's a problem. But if you're doing it to buy a gift card, that could be invalid because a lot of people have tried to gamify it and taken advantage and manipulated the system. And so I know that some of those things are flagged. Like if you go to CVS to buy a bunch of gift cards or something, to try to, gamify getting the points when it's not really money that was spent. So just be careful not to like fall into that trap.
Yeah. Like Amex has definitely cracked down on that. Like I used to be able to buy a gift card and get the Resi credit and they like stop that. So it depends. It gets a little complicated, but again, don't start off with 17 cards like me. Start with your few cards and learn it and then build from there. Definitely make sure you're using all the perks of each card. Another one I'll go through real quick. I also have the Delta card and the United card, but the Delta card, it's pretty cool because 650 annual fee, you get a $250 hotel stay credit. So when I book through their hotel platform, I get $250, $240 Resi credits. That's $20 per month. So you can't just get all 240 at once. I get the $10 Uber Lyft credit. So that alone is it brings it down to $40 out of pocket, but that doesn't include the buy one, get one free. So like I actually flew to Bridging the Gap last year and Christine came with me and her flight was free. So I saved $1,200. So that's just like, these are just ways where like why I have the car. Like I was going there anyway, got her to come for free. So it's like a no brainer for me.
Yeah, and I think this is the point, Nick, that like you pick the cards that match your lifestyle, right? And like you will be using all these credits because you like to fly Delta and you like to go out and dine and you have to use Uber and Lyft because you travel for what you do and but then you get the benefits of flying Delta, which is like the free check bag, which we all know when we pay the bag on the side, it ends up being like $80 per flight. If you fly more than, once or twice a year, you're already getting so many benefits and then some. Like to somebody else's point, Deb, who said, I pay $100 a year for the American Airlines, and if you fly there just on the free bag alone, you end up recovering that money in two flights, plus all the other perks that come with it, right? So,
Yeah, no, exactly.
hang on, real quick. Shout out to Pam, who's going to reframe in November using free flights. I had to throw in a reframe plug in there, right?
I love that. I'll see you there, Pam.
That's
um,
right.
And then so now like the big like those were just me showing just some examples of like things you could do like without even trying like or just like learn just trying a little bit and you could get those a lot of those perks, get those cards right now and enjoy the benefits. But I did book my entire honeymoon on points. It was a massive undertaking. So this is not if you have one card, this is probably not even there's no way this is feasible. But I've been building up points for years and years and years to use points to do things that I would have never paid for because the value on points was astronomically cheaper by using the points than paying for it. So like we started in Newark, this is our whole trip, and I'm just going to show you just one piece of it just to kind of give you an example because I do want to save time for Q&A. But this is probably the best redemption I ever got. We stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Masai Mara in Kenya, Africa. And this is an actual screenshot, and those are the exact dates we stayed. But you'll see it was 1.25 million points. As I mentioned, Marriott points are actually valued at zero point zero 0.08 cents. So that's like paying $10,000. which I'm not saying it's not a lot of points, but I'm just saying the power of points and just the things that might be important to you, or maybe you're like, I would never stay somewhere like this, which is also okay. But another perk of that would have cost $29,000. So let's say $30,000 to stay here just for 5 nights. One of the perks of being a Marriott status member is if you book 4 nights on points, you get the fifth night free. So these are just some of the little secrets that people don't realize. Like I almost will never stay at a Marriott on points for 4 nights because I could have booked this exact same room for 4 nights. The fifth night was free. So those are things that people might not realize that you could just get if you just add the night, then your points won't change. So I did save $19,700 on this booking. It was 67% off. And you might think, why is it so expensive? Well, it was an all inclusive. So it was included all food, all drinks. We got private game drives. So we had a private driver every single day. They gave us a $5,000 camera that we use our whole stay. So, and all the activities, everything. Like it was beyond, like it was my honeymoon. So like obviously, like if I'm a travel guy, like I'm gonna go all out for my honeymoon. But this was like one of the best redemptions. And to add on, because people are like, how'd you get 1.2 million points just for this? I actually bought points. So it's rare that you want to buy points, but for a redemption like this, and when you know what you want to do, it made sense. So I was buying points for 8 cents on the dollar for the value of the points. And I got very creative that I was actually having my friends buy points and then they were able to transfer them to me because there's limits, which there's nothing wrong with doing this. Like you're allowed to do it. There's nothing illegal but I was like, I need these points because I need to do this honeymoon. And it was like the best experience. It was just like absolutely like beyond, not something I would do on a regular basis, obviously, but I'm like, it's my honeymoon, so I wanted to go all out. But and the reason I show this is not to like show off. It's like to show you like you could do it too. Like you could literally have a few, like maybe you could just build these points up and say, I want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton Masamari in a year from now, and you could build up those points and do it yourself. So yeah, let's go into poll 4. Oh yeah, just want to show some pictures of me and the Masamari, just showing that like it was this unbelievable experience. But I want to get into poll 4, so we do have some time for questions at the end. Um, so what will you do after today? Anyone going to apply for a new card? Anyone just want to, optimize your existing card spend? Maybe you haven't been looking at what cards earn you the most points. Update your business controls and policies. Or you're still evaluating because you still want to, you need more info. You're not ready. So again, just curious where you're at today. Hopefully some of this stuff was helpful. And then me and Carlos wanted to leave time for Q&A. Obviously, I get real excited talking about all this stuff.
Yeah, we'll give it 10 more seconds for everybody to answer. We got 30 out of 42 responses, and then we'll show the results real quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the polling is now closed. So this is what we got.
Cool. So look,
Yeah.
yeah, most people want to optimize their existing card spend, which I think is a great first step because all you have to do is look at your cards, look at the benefits. A lot of times people don't even realize the benefits that are on the cards they have in their wallet. I see, a few people want to apply for a new card. I'm excited for you. There's a lot of great cards out there. If you need any guidance, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. And then some people are still evaluating, which is completely fine. And, me and Carlos are here for, anyone who has further questions or anything that wasn't maybe clear, because it's hard to manage the chat while we're presenting. But thanks for everyone for sharing. And I'm going to move on to the quick wins. So I'm going to go through this real quick. Using transferable points just means cards like a Chase, Amex, Capital One, they could transfer to multiple different partners. Where if you have your points in United, you could only use them at United. So just being aware of that. Time your credit card opening. Anyone who's thinking about opening a new card, wait till you have a big purchase coming up. Instead of spending extra money, like you have to buy, furniture. That's when it's a good time to get those bonuses. I'm going to skip these other ones because I do want to get into questions, but everyone's going to have access to this after the fact. So I do.
Yeah.
So any questions that we have that I don't, let me look through the chat.
Yeah, so Nick, let me
Yeah.
give you the two that we got before the event. One of them is
Okay.
I have an Amex Platinum card with a high annual fee. How can I maximize perks enough to justify the cost? I'm always confused about booking travel through it or which airport lounges I could use. I've used the clear option and received reimbursement, but that's about it. I'm constantly wondering when it's good to use them. So I can jump in there because I'm a former Amex Platinum user. So if it wherever you go, like whatever card you're in, like literally just log in to your card and then just go explore benefits. Okay. If you download the app and you just go to explore benefits, it'll tell you what all the benefits are and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. So like I know like if for example like the Amex Platinum card uh benefits you have like you get upgraded if you register for a Hertz account. You're automatically upgraded to Hertz Gold. If you pay for the clear airport like that expedited, kind of like TSA, but it's an expedited way to get through the TSA line or whatever. Like that will be reimbursed in your card automatically. All you have to do is you got to just pay with the credit card and if the merchant matches, it'll automatically recognize it and credit it back to you. Like I was just telling Nick, I was like, I ran out of Lululemon pants to buy because there was like one of the it's one of the perks. I'm like, I don't buy Lululemon, but I found these like super comfortable pants that ended up costing me like, I don't know, $10 out of pocket. But I was like, I don't buy Lululemon things, but you know what? These pants are pretty comfortable. There's a $200 airline fee credit. Like you have to choose what airline you want to have. So anything that you buy in that airline, you'll get that credit into it and then it tells you like what the restrictions are. But if you literally just go into the website and you go to benefit terms and you read the fine print, this is one of those things where you have to read the fine print to know what the benefits are. And all you have to do is just use the card to pay with it. If it recognizes the merchant within a day, 5 days, 10 days, it'll go ahead and credit it back. Anything to add on that, Nick?
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm just gonna leave this up because as we mentioned, my cheat sheet here, like I put some of the best benefits. So you see the Amex Platinum here. It's outdated, but like now you get a $600 hotel credit. So there's a likely chance I probably have a card that someone here has as well. So if you scan my QR code, it brings you to my e-business card, and then like in it, I have a link to get to this cheat sheet, which is updated. Like I have the built cards missing on here, but you see all the perks of the cars. But I do think like the Amex Platinum, like if you use the credits, you actually do make money, but it doesn't make sense if you're not using like the hotel credits 300 every half biannually. So if you're not using that, you're losing the money. So I highly recommend like those are the cards that are definitely you have to be a lot more in tune with them because you're paying if you're paying a big annual fee, you have to make sure that you're getting the benefit. Otherwise, it's really not worth having those cards. Was there another question that came in
Yeah,
before?
we
Oh,
answered
we
it
did. Okay.
earlier about like how often should you get a new credit card? I mean, again,
Okay.
I won't repeat that, but can I share
Yeah.
my screen for a second? I want to show
Yeah.
everybody has can go to a website, but like I actually go to this website whenever I want to compare things. It's called nerdwallet.com. Okay, so if you go to nerdwallet.com, it'll actually give you all the benefits. And I think there's another one. I think Credit Karma, right, Nick, can give you like a comparison and contrast. And it will tell you what like all their things are. Like what are the pros, what are the cons. It'll tell you if it has an offer, like it'll tell you, hey, 0% for up to this. And if you want to look at credit cards, you can go there. There's another website, just so you know that I'm not like sponsored or anything. It's called Bankrate. I also love that one. You can go to bankrate.com and it'll do a card match for you. So you could tell you like what your goals are and it'll personalize that. And then the third one is Credit Karma. Uh, and sometimes if your Credit Karma is already plugged into your system, like where your credit has already been pre-pulled, you'll actually get offers in there. So it'll tell you what are the best balance cards, rewards, travel, 0% business cards, and it'll give you what most of them are. It'll give you a rating and you can kind of read into some of those perks. So like that's what I look at before I make a decision on getting a new card. So check out those references. And what we'll do is, in the interest of time, because I do have a hard stop, is I'll take Alicia's and Deb's questions, and we will answer them in an email after this event. But really loved everybody's engagement. And Nick, thank you so much for letting us take a sneak peek into all of your tips and tricks of how to leverage credit cards. And thank you everybody for joining today.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And if you have follow-up questions, shoot me an email. My contact, you should be able to get me. We'll send a follow-up. But I love talking about this. So anyone has questions, just reach out.
You'll get the recording, you'll get the resources, you'll get everything that we talked about here. If any of your questions in the chat weren't answered via email after this event. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.